Hi, I'm Nicole and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I would like to discuss an unfortunate situation that I experienced in the past few years when it comes to this journey that I've been on. And I had brought this up very briefly in my introduction video. If you've watched my introduction video, then you may remember that I talked about how I had an online stalker or bully, whatever you want to call it, that was bothering me online for the past few years now. And I am going to talk about what I went through with this entire situation in today's video. Part of the reason why I want to bring it up is because I want to bring awareness to online bullying, because I feel it's something that doesn't really get talked about a lot, and it is a problem when it comes to being online. The other part of it is the fact that, I had already mentioned in the introduction video about how this is not the first time that I have tried to start a channel and keep it going. And part of it has to do with what I went through with this bully. Because what would happen is I would get the channel going, the bully would find out what was going on, and then they would just be doing their stuff. And the thing is I would just get exasperated and I would just take the channel down because I got the feeling that I probably shouldn't be talking about it, And it's just the thing is that I have brought it up in the past video that a lot of the videos that I'm going to be posting are basically my older videos. Because there's really no need to make any new videos when it comes to what I've already stated. When it comes to the subjects in those videos. And so I'm going to be posting older videos and then I'll make new ones, as time progresses. And the thing is that in some of the older videos, the stalker may get mentioned briefly. And if they were mentioned, it's because they were doing something at the time to antagonize and start mess. And so the whole point of, bringing awareness and going ahead and talking about it now is so if you watch, the videos later on as they progress, if I mention, in those videos, the stalker, and, you won't be sitting there wondering, well, who is she talking about? What, who is this person? What is she going? See, you won't be doing that. You should know what I'm talking about at that point. And that's why I'm going ahead and bringing it up now. As you'll notice, as the videos progress, I've got them numbered, like episode 1, episode 2, and there'll be 3, 4, 5, and so on. Well, see, there you go. You'll know that that's why I did things the way I did. And, but as I said, this is merely just to bring an awareness to, what this person did to me. And that way, in the future videos, you'll know who I'm referring to if they get brought up, And plus, too, it's also to bring awareness to the fact that from info that I had gotten, over time, apparently this person was known to do this to other fans, of NXS or Michael Hutchins. And so I'm bringing awareness so that way if you ever want to post on any of those types of videos and you come across a person like this and they start trying to chat you up, you'll know to steer clear. And, because it's best just not get involved and you can go on. Because this is something that definitely needs to be brought up, because this was not just, a few little, bad comments here and there. I mean, there are some far-reaching, stuff that this person did that just shows a whole another level of crazy, in my opinion. And I'm just going to bring it up and expose it because I feel it needs to be brought up. It needs to be made aware. So basically, what happened is that, as I mentioned, I started having, seeing these numbers, You know, because like I said, I've already briefly gone over, you know, this stuff in the introduction, but I'm going to be going more in depth with this stuff, you know, in later videos. But if you remember, I mentioned I started seeing repeat numbers back around 2018 that continued on, you know, still goes on to this day. But the whole thing started off with repeat numbers, and then around 2021 is when I started having my first dreams of Michael, and then it just went from there. Well, you know, if you remember, I talked about how I did not know, you know, hardly anything about Michael, except for the fact that he was in, you know, in excess, and that he had died young, and that was it. So I'm having to do all this research about him. Well, obviously, some of the research involved, you know, for me, is watching YouTube videos. Because, you know, there's all kinds of stuff that you can find, you know, when it comes to the music videos that NXS made, or it might be old interviews that Michael did, and so forth, you know. So, anyways, what happened was that I'm watching those videos. That was part of my research, because I'm trying to learn about Michael. Well, sometime around, well, let me back up first. When I was watching, you know, these videos, you know, they have comment sections. And I've always loved to read and participate in comment sections. And, you know, especially back on the day on the internet, you know, message boards and stuff like that. You know, I loved reading and posting, you know, if I found the subject interesting, or, you know, so the comment sections on YouTube, it's no different. So, you know, on these videos, you know, I started posting maybe a little bit about what I was going through. I would give a little bit about the repeat numbers, and, you know, and some of the other stuff that I was going through, but it was just a smidge. And, you know, I would just be posting randomly here and there, because I was hoping to see if I could find anybody that could at least maybe help me in figuring out what was going on. Because this is in that first year, you know, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, am I going crazy or what? You know? So, I'm just merely trying to find anybody that I can connect with, that, you know, it'd be fun to talk about this stuff with, and see whether or not, you know, if that they can help me out. Well, sometime around either spring or summer of 2022, I started having a person respond to some of my comments on the YouTube videos. And this person at the time was going by the name of Lord's Gone Calves. And they were always posting in French. You know, and I'd have to do that Google Translate to figure out what they were saying, because, you know, I don't speak French, you know. So anyways, you know, they were always posting in French, and obviously they tried to claim they lived in France and whatnot. You know, the person presented themselves as a woman, you know. Okay, well, this person came out being sweet, you know, and kind of being very inquisitive about what I was going through. And she was trying to claim that she was going through her own kind of spiritual experience with Michael as well, with his spirit. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. But over maybe the first month or so, I started noticing that she wasn't really giving much to me, like in terms of what she was going through. She was mainly trying to ask me what I was going through. You know, and, you know, of course, I'm just taking it as it is at the time, but I didn't realize until later on she was really fishing for information, and I just didn't catch it at the time. You know, because like I said, I'm just thinking that she's just another fellow person that's going through something similar. You know, there you go. So anyways, you know, I'm going through, you know, conversing with her here and there, and like I said, she was sweet, or at least she appeared to be. But then what ended up happening is that over the course of the summer, going into the fall and whatnot, you know, I've already been doing a lot of this research, and, kind of putting some things together. And of course, there's already other things that are coming through. And of course, this is the stuff that I'm going to be talking about, in the later videos about what I really went through that led me to, realize I am going through something, and I don't need to be ignoring it. So anyways, I'm starting to kind of get things that kind of pretty much, it kind of seems to suggest that I may be Michael's twin flame. Because I'm already coming across stuff on the internet, and there's other things that have been happening. And, I'm kind of doing that thing. I'm wondering, okay, is that what this is? Am I Michael's twin flame? Is that what's really going on? Well, one of my posts that came at that point, I just merely, mentioned the possibility that that I believe I may be Michael's twin flame. And what happened was that Lords found that, and she responded like she normally did. But this time around, it was a complete difference to the way that she had been in the previous responses. She was very sweet and inquisitive, No, she just did a complete 180 and just completely changed. And the response that she gave was just totally crazy and off the wall, just very mean-spirited. You're crazy. You're not Michael's twin flame. Twin flames don't exist, and, blah, 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 blah. Call me a liar and all this other stuff. Like I said, complete 180. My first thought, obviously, was, okay, well, I kind of had my guard up a little bit here and there. And yeah, it just got proven this person's obviously crazy. Something's not right. I'm not going to converse with him anymore. So bye-bye, And I thought that was that. And I went on my life, So, as I stated, I'm making these posts. I'm just going about doing my thing, just merely posting here and there, talking about my experience. This is before I started, the channel at all, the first version of it, so to speak. So this is way before any of that, started up. So I'm just making my post here and there. And what followed was just like before, when Lords had seen, my post in the past, and she would respond. And of course, she was being nice back then. Well, she's doing that same thing where she's seeing my response, my post, and then responding. So she is responding like she did back then. But what is going on now is that she's doing the thing that she basically did in the first post where she's attacking me. It's always, I'm crazy, I'm a liar, I have nothing with Michael, and all this other stuff, blah, 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 blah. And it kept on, it kept on, it kept on. Like, if I made any kind of post on any YouTube video that pertained to Michael Hutchins or in excess, if she saw it, here she came to come and discredit me and call me a liar to basically anybody if they read it or if they listened. And it became like a campaign or a vendetta. I mean, like I said, if I posted, here she came. And she was constantly doing that stuff, and she would try to start mess. And, it just went on. It was getting to be, crazy. And, of course, that's when you start to realize that, that this person obviously is crazy, that something's not right. Because you have to think about this with common sense. I believe that I'm having this experience. There are other people that talk about who they've had an experience as well when it comes to deceased celebrities. My view of thinking of this whole thing is that if this, Lords person, if she really is having an experience herself, then why feel the need to come and attack me and try to, say that I'm crazy and all this other stuff when, when you're not there, you don't know what I went through. See, if you really believe that you had an experience yourself, then you shouldn't feel the need to attack. And see, that right there kind of exposes it. It shows that the person, is obviously making stuff up when they claim that they're having their experience, because it's just common sense. And see, the kind of stuff that she was doing is it progressed into where she was, trying to claim that she knew for a fact that I had nothing, because she would use that term. She'd say, "You have nothing with Michael." That's what she would post. She starts trying to paint this picture that she's having her own, so-called spiritual experience. And she didn't ever call it a twin flame connection, but it might as well have been, because everything that she claimed she was going through, it operates in that same manner or the same style. But yet, for some reason, she never would call it a twin flame. And basically, the stuff got crazy. This person, over time, was saying stuff like that she and Michael were in a relationship, that they were so in love, that he knew her from past lives and he's waiting for her in heaven. I mean, she even went so far to even post. There was one crazy post where she literally claimed that he was waiting for her in heaven, and when she returned, they were going to be making babies. It was that kind of crazy stuff. And again, common sense at this point is going to kind of come in and say, yeah, something's not right with this person, mentally. So, I mean, that's basically what this whole thing, if you understand me and what I'm trying to say, then you probably are going to understand it. It's basically this person, they obviously are obsessed with Michael, and they've got this delusional fantasy going on in their head. And basically, she viewed me as a threat to this imaginary relationship that she had going on with the spirit of Michael Hutchins. And, I do know there are crazy people out there that say, these kinds of things when it comes to their, favorite celebrities, especially the deceased ones. But it's just that this person, it didn't end there. It kept on and on and on. Okay? And so anyways, at some point, several months, almost a year later, after when she started bothering me, it was at least several months later, because it's been a few years now, but I actually ended up going to a local medium that I believed. Let me backtrack. I first went on, there's these channelers on YouTube that they try to claim, that they could channel, the spirits and whatnot. And, you have to take it with a grain of salt a lot of times, because you don't know if these people are telling the truth or not. Well, two of these channelers that like to do the videos where they claim they like to, channel the deceased celebrities, and Michael obviously was one of the subjects. Two of them, I did reach out. And again, I gave them a little bit of what I was going through. The first one, she said that I had a connection. She didn't call it a twin flame, but she said there was something there, And the other one also said that there was something there too. And she kept using that term, "do not doubt it." She kept strongly saying, "do not doubt it. You know this." And I kind of got that because I had already been getting these weird things that were, that was kind of pointing to that same message of do not doubt. And what's also funny is that particular channeler, the stuff with Lulu, and I'm gonna go on here and tell this now. Her name is Lulu, at least on YouTube as of now. She ended up changing her name to Lulu. It went from Lords to Lulu, and it's been that for the longest time, but she keeps going back and forth. There's been all kinds of different names that this person has used, and she always gives herself away because she's always posting in French and talking about her imaginary relationship with Michael and all this other stuff. And, so it's just, the thing is, I'm going to refer to her as Lulu now at this point, just so you know, because that is what they're currently going by. Last time that I checked or knew of or saw that, that they're still doing that on YouTube. So, but anyways, Lulu was already doing her stuff at this point, and this second Chandler, here we go, she saw me posting on this person's, video, and we're having that little, posting back and forth, where the Chandler's telling me that, yes, something's there, and don't doubt it. Well, here comes Lulu over here to start her mess. She's doing that thing where she's trying to, get the Chandler to don't believe her. She's lying and all this other crap. And, well, Chandler wasn't having it. She flat out, told her that if you don't stop, I'm going to have to disable my comment section. So you see the kind of level of craziness of how the desperation that this person is willing to go just to prove that I'm a liar. And, I don't know this person. They don't know me. And like I said, I was sitting there, I'm thinking, what is this person's deal? Why do they continue to push this? Because I've already explained it. I've already said it that, if this person really and truly, if they believe they're Michael's twin or that they've got a connection and whatnot, okay, well, good. Go away and leave me alone. Who cares? I certainly don't, because I know what I'm going through. And you're not going to call me a liar. I'm not going to stand for that. And like I said, this person, that proves that, you're pretty much a bullshitter. If you're wanting to come and start shit. Excuse my language, because I can be a potty mouth. I try not to curse. Sometimes you can't help it when you're talking about stuff like this, because, it gets you heated, and upset, But anyway, so now then, so here it is. I have gone to 2 of these channelers' videos and talked to them about what I've gone through, and they said they believe I have something going on. But what ended up happening was I went to a local medium, and I did not tell them anything but anything. I just let the medium do her thing. And what ended up happening is that Michael showed up. He came through. And the thing that proved it to me, it wasn't just what she was saying, but I had deceased relatives of mine that had passed. They're showing up too. There's things that are coming through that checked out with me. And then there were some that I kind of didn't know. And I remember afterwards, I had to call my mom, let her know to see if she could understand. And my mom was able to, to get some of it. She understood it. And then it was like, okay, well, there's that. Because this would have been pertaining to older relatives that are, they weren't even really around when I was born. They'd already passed, but yet they were around. My mom was around. It's that kind of thing, I'm talking about that thing about, relatives when my mom was young, and then, like I said, they passed, by the time I've been born, it's that kind of thing, like I said, it's just things are checking out. And she's proven the connection to me, because I didn't go in there and tell her all. I just kept my mouth shut and let her do her thing. And, the thing is that to me, I felt like I was finally getting confirmation, about the fact that, yes, there's something going on, Now, here's the thing. Here it is. I was going through that period of, am I going crazy, or is there really something going on? And, this medium is, at least I feel that's confirmation, Now, here's the thing. She did use the term twin flame. She said I was Michael's twin flame. That was the term that she used. Now, I already brought this up in the introduction video, and I'll reiterate it again, that yes, everything that I've been getting points to that all, but sometimes I don't really like to go by that because, I'm not 100% sure about this whole twin flame. A lot of it really doesn't make any sense to me. So, that's why I like to call him, soul family, soul brother. The thing that mostly that what I got out of it that made me happy was I was not going crazy, and that yes, Michael was reaching out to me. That there was something going on, and I don't need to be ignoring it. So, what ended up happening is that, Lulu has already been doing, her stuff at this point. I just had to go there. Again, I haven't said anything, about oh, I'm being bothered, by a stalker and all. I didn't say nothing. I just simply asked the medium. I said, if Michael's still there, can you ask him? And I used the name, remember I told you that Lulu had gone by the name of Lords, in the beginning, of her, starting to harass me and whatnot. I just, I said, can you ask him about, Lords? What is that all about? And he came through, and what he relayed to her, and then she relays it to me, she said that he was aware of it all, that he knew what was going on, because, spirit, they can see and hear, they're aware, he was aware, and he said he did not know her at all, that do not pay it any attention, focus, on, our connection, focus, being, be positive. There is no connection, because he does not know her. And, basically there was another thing that I kind of wondered about, but it was said, he said, do not, worry that you are protected spiritually. Okay? And I didn't really know what he meant by that time. I'm like, okay, well, thank you, God. That's, my response, because, I'm a Christian. I'm strongly believer in, Jesus and God. And, I just, so like I said, I can only be grateful. But that was the info that I got from that medium. So let's go back now to what this crazy stalker has been trying to paint this picture of. She sees my post, starts calling me a liar, says that she's got this spiritual connection to Michael and all this other stuff and blah, 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 that she knows for a fact that I'm lying. Michael told her so and all this other crap. Basically she's trying to paint this picture that she's got this connection with him. And of course, I've already done told you about the fact that she's calling it a romance and all this other crazy stuff. I've already gone over that. But the medium is telling me, and Michael says he knows what's going on. He knows what she's been doing. And he doesn't know her at all. Now, I'll just say right now, obviously, I kind of knew that. It's common sense. But it was just great satisfaction in actually, getting that. Because, when you have been, I'm just going to back up. It is actually kind of hard at times, for me to even talk about this stuff. Because, I know that people are going to think that I'm crazy. Because, she's not the only one. There's been a few others when it came to the past, times that I tried to, start the channel up. And I'd have a few naysayers, that would come on there, doing the same thing she did, call me crazy. I understood, that if I was going to talk about this at all, that you're going to have your naysayers come and do that crap, and, it's part of the territory when it comes to this kind of stuff. And the thing is that when you start to be harassed constantly, by a person, where it's definitely some type of vendetta, and they won't drop it and they won't leave you alone, and that's when you realize you're being, stalked. It was just great satisfaction knowing that. Even though technically on the inside I already knew. Because it just common sense presents itself, But the thing is, that's what was said. So now then, I go back, to, my life. I'm happy knowing that, there is definitely something going on. Don't doubt it. Well, you know, I'm, you know, sitting there just doing my thing, where if I ever see any kind of video that I'm interested in, and if I choose to continue posting, as usual, here she comes doing her crap. And you got to remember, this is going into the year of 2023 now. And I mean, you see how long it's been going on? I mean, this stuff was going on basically as until, you know, most recently. Yeah, I mean, we are still in 2025 right now. And it was going on around the early to mid part of 2025, which I'll get to, you know, later. But it's just, the thing is, that's how long this crap was going on. So, you know, as usual, I'm doing my post. She's doing her thing of trying to, you know, make it to anybody who would listen that I'm crazy and all this other stuff. And, you know, she's just saying the same old crap. It's getting old and tiresome. So, knowing what I now know since going to that session with that medium, I've had it. So I started fighting back. I started, you know, responding back to her and letting her have it, telling her, guess what? I actually went to a medium, and Michael came through in the reading, and he said he didn't know you at all. And of course, she didn't like that. And, you know, the harassment just continued and continued, and you see where this is going. So the thing is that, so like I said, this stuff is continuing, you know, it won't stop. I'm going to go over some of the stuff that she either, you know, did or said, just to kind of give you an idea of what I had to go through. As if this wasn't already enough. But, one of the things that she was doing is she would do this thing where, you know, as I said earlier, she's trying to paint herself out to be a medium herself. And, you know, she claims, you know, that she can do all that she can, you know, talk to, you know, I guess telepathically, whatever you want to call it, you know, with his spirit and all this other stuff. And that's how she claims that she's able to know that I'm lying and all this other stuff. Well, she said some crazy stuff because, I mean, she couldn't be nice about it. See, that's another thing that gives it away. Let's just say that she really did have a connection and that she really can communicate, you know, with the dead. And, you know, she's really communicating with Michael. And it turns out that he's telling her that I've got it all wrong, that it's not a twin flame connection, but that there is something going on. You know, it's just I've got it wrong. You would think that she would have been trying to contact with me and connect with me in that way at the beginning of when she started, you know, responding to my post. You think she would have been all nice and, you know, tried to help me. But see, no, it was that stupid thing of being jealous and getting on a tizzy just because I mentioned the whole twin flame thing. And you see where it leads into this whole, I mean, it is so obvious that this is somebody that, again, they've admitted it, you know, that they think they're in this relationship with a dead spirit. And then, I mean, it's obvious, you know, I mean, it's like I said, she obviously saw me as a threat to her little imaginary relationship. This is nothing different than somebody that gets jealous, you know, of if they see you dating somebody and they want that person for themselves, and you see where I'm getting at. It's that kind of crazy crap. Okay? I mean, like I said, we're dealing with somebody that obviously, you know, that term, you know, they're not playing with a full deck of cards. That's what this is all about. So the thing is, you got to remember that, you know, she's doing that thing where she claims that she can communicate with him and all this other stuff. Well, she would say all this stuff that Michael told me this about you, and Michael told me that about you, and it would be mean things. And see, that's another thing that exposes itself and gives itself away. You know, Michael has shown himself to me to be a gentle, sweet spirit. You know, very kind. Kind of protective now too, and I'm not saying that just, I mean, I'm just saying, you know, what's been going on, because he is very protective, you know, ever since all this crap started up. I do know that. But, you know, the people that knew him, in that lifetime, they always talk about that. That for all of the, the fact that, yeah, he did get hooked on the drugs and the drinking and that kind of stuff. And, yeah, we know he was a womanizer, And, then you got that whole thing about how fame can change you and all this other stuff. The people that knew him best have always said that he was so sweet. That fame didn't seem to, yeah, of course fame is going to change your life, but he was still a very humble person. That he was just a very kind person. He was not an asshole like, some people end up turning into that we hear about, when it comes to getting famous in the entertainment business. And, this is exactly what I get, from the dreams I've had of him. And, she would just go on. She would say that, oh, he said this and like I said, it would literally amount to name calling and that kind of stuff. And again, common sense should be prevailing at this point, because a spirit from heaven would not be operating in that manner. Okay? And yet she's trying to say that he's bad-mouthing me and doing all this other stuff. I mean, it's very juvenile. I mean, the person, whoever it is that's behind the account, they present themselves as a grown woman. She looks like she's in her 50s or 60s. The person that they keep showing pictures of a lady. I don't, and I think we don't know if it's them or not. Because, you can post a picture of anything. When it comes to your little, the avatar that you have on the, your YouTube channel, account, whatever you want to call it. But this person keeps posting it's different pictures, but the same woman. And this woman, like I said, looks like she's in her 50s or 60s. And I'm just going to tell you right now, if that really is her, then yeah, they do need help. Because I mean, if I did not know any better, I would think that a lot of this stuff was coming from somebody that was in middle school or high school. I mean, juvenile type behavior is what I'm talking about. I mean, very immature behavior for a grown woman. I mean, like I said, that's what a lot of these shenanigans, remind me of, is somebody that's a little stupid kid that don't know any better. And like I said, if it is a grown, adult that's acting like this, that's just sad. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just sad and it's sick too. So that's one of the things that this person loved doing, and trying to prove their so-called connection and call me a liar. And of course, like I said, I already know better. And like I said, anybody else at this point, if you're listening, obviously common sense should prevail at this point. Another thing that really bothered me about what was going on in the beginning when she started her harassment, she kept glomming on to the fact that, those first series of posts when I was posting, I brought up that I may want to write about this experience. And when I talk about writing, I didn't specifically say that, I wanted to write a book or what. I just simply said that I wanted, to write about this, possibly in the future. And in doing so, what I actually meant was basically what I'm doing now, is making this YouTube channel, making these videos and, sharing it on my YouTube channel, and just going from there. If I wanted to do a blog or a book, that's my prerogative. It's my problem. Well, one of the things that she was doing in the first series of posts, when she's harassing me, she's glomming on to, whenever I brought that up at some point. And she was flat out, in some of these posts, she was flat out telling me that I was not to write a book. She kept harping about that I was going to write a book, and I wasn't to write a book. That you're not to, And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I can write or talk about this, you know, if I want to. Who in the hell are you to be telling me what I can and can't do? I don't know who you think you are, but you don't tell me what I can and can't do. I mean, you know, and see, that's the whole level of crazy that I'm talking about, that I'm dealing with here. I mean, that's how bad that this person, this is how stupid that this person, that they thought that they were, that they thought they could tell me what I could and couldn't do. You know, that was another weird thing. Another thing too that that really kind of bothered me is in recent, you know, let's say in the past year, a lot of posts that this person that they were referring to with me, they loved bringing it up that I don't show my face or that I haven't given away my name and all this other stuff. Because I'll just say it right now, if you've noticed, I keep going by the name Nicole, you know, on, you know, this channel. And of course, the other times I tried to start the channel, it's because I'm not about to give my name away after all of this crazy crap that I've been through. You know, I'm not dumb. I mean, you know, I've said, I think I said it in the past video, but I've said it before, and I'll just say it again. The name Nicole is a code name, basically. You know, because, you know, of all the stuff. You know? And of course, the reason, the manner of which I, you know, when I'm doing these videos and the way that I've been doing them, there's a clear reason why. You know, you ain't gonna see my face, and it's just obviously because I'm trying to keep certain things private. And, you know, I had already, you know, gone over that, you know, in the past about how I knew that I was going to do it this way because I definitely wanted to keep some stuff anonymous because I'm trying to keep my privacy. But at the same time, it's also a safety thing because of what I've had to go through with this crazy person. And that was something that I've been noticing, that she was glomming on to that I never showed my face. You know, never brought up my name. In other words, she was doing that thing where she's trying to paint the picture again to anybody who would listen that I must be lying, that that's proof that I'm lying, and that this is all bullshit because I don't show my face or give away my name. And see, that's just stupid. There's lots of people that talk about things and they try to keep some privacy. And what I eventually caught on to is that this person, I think that they were trying to goad me. They were doing that thing where they're trying to taunt to see if they could get me all riled up to where I'd be like, okay, well, here you go. Here's my face. Here's my name. See? Are you happy? And see, that, you know, I'm not stupid. I caught on to it because, you know, again, it goes back to it being a safety thing for me. And that's, you know, when you think about it, that is kind of dangerous. That this person is going to that kind of length. They were really wanting my face and my name. And for what reason? You know, why? Of course, I have my theories as to what that was all about, but I really don't want to go into it. It's just that there's some not so good things that kind of go along with that as to what I think the real reason was, that she was trying to get a picture of me or get my info or whatever. And of course, it's not good and I don't want to go into it. But the thing is I'm not stupid. You know, I'm not going to give away that stuff. And you have to think about that. That means that this person, it's not that they're mentally ill. They're not just mentally ill. They're bad. This person has pretty much exposed themselves. They have got a bad soul. I'm just going to say it, I think they're pretty much, they're evil. They got some bad evil running through their veins. And they were up to no good. There was something sinister about that. You know, and it just, you know, like I said, I caught on to it luckily. So that's something that I'm going to go ahead and say right now, that, you know, as the videos progress, if you start to notice you know, that I don't ever show my face, or that there are certain personal details that I can never really give out. I have to kind of go around it. It's because of this crap. You know, now you know why. This is now exposing as to why I am going on ahead and making this video now, and it's going to be my second video, so that way, as the other videos progress, you're going to understand now why I went on ahead and decided to talk about all of this first, so that way we could get it out of the way. And you would understand, you know, as the other videos, when they get posted, and there you go. You know, you would understand. So, but there's more. And I am seeing this video is starting to get long. Another thing that this Lulu started doing, and this was pretty much after I had exposed, you know, to her that I had been to a medium, and that, you know, that she had been exposed basically when it came to her claiming she knew Michael and all this other stuff. The thing is that she starts to accuse me of being somebody by the name of Andrea or Andrea or whatever it was. It was some, I mean, I call it the way I see it pronounced. It was some name that was spelled like Andreia, and to me it looks like Andrea, you know, because it looks different from the name Andrea that we have here, you know, in the U.S. But she starts accusing me of being this person by the name of Andrea. Newsflash, that's not my name. And I had never seen it. Like, you know, I just explained it. It's a weird name to me. I mean, it's a pretty name, but it's weird because we don't have names like that here in the U.S. I mean, that's kind of exotic. It's definitely foreign spelling, because we have an Andrea or Andrea, and it's Andrea. You know, not the other way, you know. But she starts accusing me of being this Andrea person, and that this person is Brazilian. And I'm like, you know, I find that funny. You know, because, you know, at the time that she was doing this, you know, I had not started my channels. You know, and the thing is, if you have seen, because some of y'all, if you're watching these videos, you might remember, you know, you might have even come across the videos I made on the other channels back then. I am clearly born in the U.S. and raised in the U.S. because if you haven't noticed, I have a very thick Southern accent. I was born and raised here in the United States in the southeastern region of the United States. And it's clearly evident by my accent. But according to Little Miss Know-It-All, you know, Lulu bitch, as I started kind of referring to her, you know, at various points in time when all this was going on. Oh, according to her, I'm some Brazilian named Andrea. And, that right there, you know, that's like a whole nother can of worms right there that I really don't even want to go into it. I'll just say that, yeah, I happened to come across someone by the name of Andrea that was posting, you know, on, you know, various In Excess videos on YouTube, and they were definitely posting in Portuguese. And what's very weird about the whole thing is, you know, Brazil, the country, their main language is Portuguese, you know, which comes from the country of Portugal. And what's very weird is how this Andrea person, she seems to be this big fan of Michael Hutchins, is always, you know, making posts about him, you know, as a fan would. And she's obviously, she seems to present herself as Brazilian, you know, and that she speaks Portuguese. Well, you know, that's the thing, you know, Brazil was known for that, as I just said, you know, Portuguese is, you know, part of that's their language, you know, in that country. But something that I found odd about it is that, if you remember Lulu, remember what I said in the beginning, that when she first started harassing me, she was going by the name Lord's Goncalves. Well, see, the last name Goncalves, I happen to find out that that name has an origin. You know, I think it's a Portuguese last name. I think it's like a famous last name, you know, in the Portuguese language. And it's obviously going to be a popular, you know, last name for people that are, you know, in Portugal, or if they got the Portuguese, you know, origin and Portuguese-speaking communities, of which country Brazil is one of them. And I found that a little weird, because it's like you know, this person, you know, is harassing me, and then all of a sudden starts accusing me of being, you know, this person named Andrea, and yet the name that they gave away at the beginning happens to be connected to all that. And I just thought that was weird. So take with that what you will, if you understand what I'm saying, because, you know, it might have sounded a little confusing, but that was another weird thing that this person started to pull. It was another little trick, you know, out of their crazy hat, where they were all of a sudden trying to accuse me of being this Andrea person from Brazil. And again, it's been exposed, because, I mean, my accent gives it away of where I'm clearly from. You know, if you came across, maybe you've come across the old videos, you should recognize my voice by now. It's the same voice, accent, everything. And, you know, as I start to post, you know, my older videos talking about, you know, this whole experience of what I've gone through with Michael and the others in my soul family, you will clearly be able to tell that, yeah, I'm definitely from the United States. Okay, so, you know, that was another weird thing. You know, basically, if you hadn't figured out, this Lulu person had an answer for everything. You know, you expose her on one thing, she comes at you with something else, thinking that she's got you and that she's really exposed you now. And now that just comes unraveled. Then she comes at you with something else, and that comes unraveled. You see the whole pattern. There was a pattern to everything I noticed over time. And like I said, it just got tiresome. Very, very tiresome, very old, you know. Another thing that was really bothersome, and again, this kind of exposes the craziness that this person, the lengths that they were going to in trying to just, you know, to prove that I'm making all this up. You know, she apparently, this happened, you know, fairly recent, around, I think it was around the beginning of this year. It's fairly recent. She apparently started complaining about me to another person who runs a blog. And this person, you know, their blog ain't got nothing to do with Michael Hutchins. You know, ain't got nothing to do with me. I mean, she's just got her own blog, and there you go. Well, at the time that apparently all this was going on, I was trying to start my channel back up, and I had my videos, you know, I was uploading them, you know. Well, a viewer who apparently liked going to this blog and was also watching my videos, they saw what was going on. And they alerted me to it. They let me know what was going on. And so I went to this blog and checked it out. And yeah, you know, Lulu was doing her crazy crap. And, you know, and basically what she was doing, she was basically asking this person, what do you think about this, you know, this person that's got this channel claiming that she's the twin flame of Michael Hutchins and all this other stuff. And, you know, and they would go and discuss it, you know, in the comment section of this blog, you know. And basically she was just doing the same stuff. That's nothing new. She's doing that thing where she's posting about me and trying to, you know, basically do that thing where she's bad-mouthing and trying to paint me out to be a liar. And obviously you could tell that the person was kind of questioning, like, you know, what has this got to do with me? You know, I don't know this person, you know, that kind of thing. And this is what gave them away. I guess they thought they weren't going to get found out, but like I said, that viewer figured it out, you know, because you got to remember, you know how I'm talking about all this, about, you know, this whole thing about bullying. I did that on the other channel once, all this, you know, when I was starting all my videos and creating them. I've already, you know, had, you know, videos in the past talking about all the stuff. So this viewer knew about the bully situation, so to speak. That's how they were able to figure it out and let me know about it, you know. So anyways, what it is that, you know, she gave herself away because she was posting under the name of Gone Calps on this person's blog. Remember what I tell you, what was the name she went by, you know, in the beginning? Lords Gone Calps. And then she's posting in French. And it's just the same old stuff. So you see where I'm getting at? So anyways, I had to go to that person's blog, explain to them exactly what the real deal was about this Gone Calps character, and that, you know, she didn't need to be conversing with her. And, you know, the blogger, you know, they understood. They understood at that point, and, you know, she took care of it and dealt with it, you know, since it's her blog, you know. And, you know, as usual, she actually let me know that once, you know, Lulu was found out and she was exposed about that, she didn't like that, was trying to start some mess with her. So you see where I'm getting at? That this is the kind of level of crazy that we're talking about, that this woman is going, if you can call it a woman at this point, because like I said, we really don't know who's behind the account, but whoever this Lulu is, this is the lengths that they were going to in trying to paint me out to be, you know, a liar, and that I don't, you know, people don't need to be listening to me and all this other. And I mean, for what? You know, I mean, it's just this crazy. One of the things that also gave her away is the blogger of that blog. They even admitted, they brought up this Andrea name, saying that she was trying to accuse me of being somebody by the name of Andrea. Here we go again. It gives itself away. And you see what I'm talking about? And she said she had listened to some of my videos and she could tell that it was obvious something wasn't right, because she could clearly tell by my accent that no, I'm not Brazilian. So, I mean, it's just, that's the level of crazy we're talking about right there. Another thing that she was also doing, is that there were some copycat instances that was going on where she was definitely trying to, you know, copycat. And basically the best way I can describe it is that she was taking from, whether it be one of the posts that I made on YouTube back then, or taking info from, you know, what I have said in my past videos, and then she's posting about it elsewhere, and then trying to basically claim it as her own. She's trying to say that this is her experience. So she's basically copying and stealing. Two incidents that come to mind. The first, which was fairly recent, this involves the situation with that blog that I just talked about, where, you know, she was trying to start her mess. One of the things that I had discovered was when she's trying to paint this picture to that blogger in the comment section about how she's got this experience with Michael and all this other stuff, you know, and she's doing the same stuff, talking about how they're in love and all this other crap. She actually brought up an incident that I had talked about, and I will obviously, this is from an old video, and that video will be posted at some point, but I'll bring it up briefly. But it's an incident that happened to my grandfather, okay, on my dad's side, my dad's dad. And what it is, you got to remember, these videos have already been made. She was actually taking from that incident, and she was trying to post on this person's blog, on their comments. She was trying to say, basically, all of that was something of her, that was from her life. In other words, copying and stealing from what I've been saying in these videos, and then trying to pass it off as her own. I mean, that's crazy and it's creepy. And see, again, this is what helped that blogger once I exposed. When I saw, as I'm reading all those comments, that's how I helped that blogger realize, that yeah, you're being lied to. This is all from my channel. This is what she's taken from my channel. And she's trying to paste it all and make it sound like it's her that all this has happened to. And see, of course, the blogger, she understood. Like I said, she exposed it on her blog. She made a series of posts and gave lengthy explanations to it all. Like I said, the whole thing, it unraveled. She got exposed, So you've got that. She's copying and stealing from my channel. But she was doing this crap in the beginning before I even started my channel. She was doing this in the beginning of when she was first conversing with me. She was doing this weird thing. I brought up about my birthday, and this is something that I'll be explaining in another video coming up about how my birthday has this kind of weird connection. With Michael, there's all these connections to numbers and birth dates and just dates of, other stuff. There's just all these things, these weird connections with numbers. And I'll be explaining that, in videos to come. But what it is that, in the post I had made back in the day, in the beginning of all this, I was talking about my birthday because I'll give away my birthday. My birthday is August the 25th, 1981. Well, I had put that, in these posts, back then. And, back when Lulu, when she's trying to talk with me and be all nice and friendly, and she's fishing for information and all that, she's trying to claim a birthday of August as well. And of course I'm like, okay, well, cool. Because, obviously there's going to be lots of people that have, birthdays in August. Nothing suspicious there. But she tried to claim it was August the 8th. And I'm like, okay, yeah, because there's going to be lots of people born on August the 8th. But at some point, when she started, when she changed and started being, the bitch that she is, she still claims the August birthday, but now she tries to claim it's the 24th of August. And again, it's definitely a level of creepy, and it's also a level of copying. And, at the end of it all, we don't know whether or not her birthday is even in August. It could be in September or February or March for all we know. But the thing is, she's doing that crap where now she's saying it's the 24th, and here's the craziness. First of all, remember how she said it was on the 8th of August? And, that's weird in itself, because think about what is August. It's the 8th month. But the other thing, too, is that the 24th, that's very close to my birthday right there, the 25th. And you see, you got to remember, how can you get your own birthday wrong? How is it you can claim that your birthday is on the 8th in one post, and then on another you try to claim it's the 24th? I mean, again, that's just stupid right there. I mean, I could tell what she was doing. She's trying to copy and see what, it's almost like she thought she could push some buttons to see what she could get away with, but I saw right through it. But that was another kind of weird thing where she's trying to copy, and there were some other little things here and there, but those were the two that come to mind. And so that's going to be the thing that also exposes of why I'm having to make these videos and keep them up. Because you have to think about this. If this person was actually, at least by word, and in comment sections and whatnot, they're trying to listen to your videos, and she was watching my videos. She gave herself away on that. She You know, there's a way that, you know, when you create a channel and you make videos, there's a way to know, like your viewership. I'm not going to explain it, but there is a way to know about it. I mean, if you create content, you're going to know what I'm talking about, because it's not a secret. And it gave it away. She was watching my videos. Definitely, she was obviously watching them and trying to get this info. The thing is that if this person is at least willing to, by mouth, you know, try to steal by posting like that, then yeah, you have to look at that this person is capable of actually stealing by actually copying, by writing, you know, or making videos of their own or whatever. And to see if I catch that, then yeah, it is going to be on them, because that's when, you know, you have to, it's a legal thing at that point then. The thing is that this person is obviously capable. They already exposed themselves by what they did on that person's blog. And you have to think about this, exposes it. What did I say that she kept harping on at the beginning of it all? When she was starting her harassment, she kept throwing at you are not to write a book. You're not going to write, and all this. And see, again, that was just weird in itself. See, it kind of exposes itself. I mean, I didn't have to explain at this point. It exposes itself. So, again, now you know why there's another reason why I'm trying to start this channel up again for the umpteenth time and keep it going, because, you know, my story is out there, and if she thinks she can try to copy it again, she's got another thing coming, because she ain't going to be able to, because like I said, you're going to get into legal problems at that point. So there's that. So this person, like I said, they were trying to copy. I mean, that's something that they were doing. I mean, like I said, there was a lot. You know, another thing too that I'm thinking of, it just kind of hit me. She never could keep her story straight. That is something that others have brought up too, about that. She, you know, and when I mean others, I'm talking about other people that had dealt with her, because like I said, people talk, and I had found out over time through other people's posts that this person was known to harass people, you know, like fans of Michael Hutchins or In Excess, and it's obviously because of that weird delusion that this Lulu is under, where she thinks that Michael is her man, and you're not to mess, you know, with them, basically, in this relationship or whatever it is that she thinks she's got going on in her crazed mind. So, you know, like I said, there's been others that have had to deal with her. But she couldn't keep her story straight. One incident that comes to mind is she, something that she kept throwing, you know, at my face, basically. You know, she kept bringing up that she had been to a medium, or at least, you know, 2 or 3 of them at one, you know, various points. But she couldn't keep her story straight. She tried to claim at one point that she had a session with the Long Island, you know, medium. I forget the person's name at this point, but it's that Long Island medium. It's like one of our famous psychics over here in the U.S. And I already called bullshit, just because of the fact that if this Lulu is from France like they claim, why would you want to converse with Long Island medium when I'm pretty sure France has their own cachet of famous, you know, psychics, mediums, whatever you want to call it. You know, but no, she tried to claim she went to a session with the Long Island medium, and then that's how she found out her connection. But then I brought that up in one of her posts when she was messing with me, and she tried to claim she didn't say any such a thing. And yes, she did. So again, you've got that. And then she tried to bring up some other person. I can't remember their name, but I mean, it's just, you know, she can't keep her story straight. And then another thing too, that just exposed itself as well, because she loved trying to claim, and if you remember, you know, I said this, you know, she loved trying to claim that she had the ability to communicate with Michael. So if you got that ability and you seem to have no problem, then why did you have to go to a medium to get any kind of confirmation when that you just said that you could get the confirmation on your own by being able to communicate with Michael? See, I went to a medium because I don't have that ability. If I had that ability, I would have never gone to a medium because I would have felt that I wouldn't have needed to do that if I had these abilities. But you see where I'm getting at? So that doesn't make any sense. And so again, it's like, okay, which is it? And I mean, when you think about it all, what this whole thing is all about is this is somebody who is an obsessed fan of Michael Hutchins. They obviously, you know, I don't know what kind of life they live or lead, but it's a sad one. I can tell you that right now. And they've got in their head that they are in this relationship with Michael in spirit, and that he's waiting for her in heaven and all this other crap and blah, 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 blah. And of course, what did I find out? You know, there is no connection, obviously. He's not waiting for her because he doesn't know her. And I can tell her now, he don't want to know her. Because I can tell you from that reading that I had gotten from the medium back then, I mean, you could tell he was very protective. I mean, he didn't want me to focus on her at all if I could help it. He wanted me to go on to focus, you know, on everything else and to, you know, try to ignore it. Don't pay any attention. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, it was explained, you know, that people are going to be saying crazy stuff like that, and there's nothing that can be done. People are going to say what they want to say. You have to just ignore it and go on. You know? But yeah, this is this person, their MO, so to speak. They've got a crazy delusion about Michael, and Michael is her man, basically. So the thing is that if you start talking about Michael in any way, shape, or form, if she views you to be a threat, then it's, you know, she's going to harass you. You know? And, you know, she's going to do all this crazy stuff. I suspect that me merely bringing up the twin flame thing is what did it, because obviously she wants to be his twin flame so badly. Otherwise, why is all this crap going on? I mean, we're dealing with somebody where they are jealous. I mean, I'm sorry if that's all this is. This is somebody that's jealous, and they wish to be me in this weird way. I don't know why. And they're, you know, like I said, they're doing this thing where they're trying to, I mean, personally, what I think is going on is that, you know, because of that weird delusion where they think that they're Michael's, you know, I guess other half, or where you want to call it, you know, she's trying to somehow come in, and she thought she was going to start stealing my content and, you know, or, you know, everything that I had said, and then tried to pass it off as her own. And like I said, she got another thing coming, because like I said, once these videos are out there, I mean, I just like to see her try to claim. I mean, because it exposes itself at this point. But that's what it seems like on the surface, but underneath it, there is something more sinister going on. There was some stuff I was told in the reading that I'm keeping private. I mean, there were some alludings to some things that are bad. Like I said, when I say this person, they're not a good person, they are not a good person. They are a bad soul. I mean, this is not just somebody that's crazy and delusional. They've got evil intentions, because, you know, you've got people that are mentally ill, but they're still nice people. They just got problems, you know, mentally. But no, this is somebody that's mentally ill, and they are not a nice person. Okay? Because every bit of everything that happened obviously comes with bad intentions. There was something, especially that whole thing about the face. You know, you don't never show your face, and, you know, why? And see, that's bad. That's very bad. She wanted a picture of me for some reason. Why? You know, you don't need to know a thing about me. You know, so why are you trying to do that? You know? I mean, like I said, there was some stuff that was alluded to, and I'm not going to go into it. I'm just putting this out there for people to know that when you're watching these videos, you know, about Michael, you know, watch who you converse with when it comes to the comment section, because I've had to definitely do that myself. And you know, here's what's creepy. You know, there are YouTube channels I subscribe to, and there's been a few of them in recent years where they have started, they're successful. You know, they've got a lot of viewers or whatever. And they have had to post a video that's similar to what I'm doing right now, where they're talking about where they're having a stalking situation by some crazy person that, you know, that obviously glommed onto them for whatever reason and got obsessed. So, you know, there is a real problem with this online bullying, you know, and stalking harassment. I'm just posting about my experience, what I went through. I obviously didn't expect any of this to happen. Now you can understand why I have had to take the channel down at times, and then I'd get into this, you know, thinking of, I want to start this back up, because I think that was part of it. I think that was part of her thing. You know, she wanted me to shut up and go away. And, you know, I realized I don't need to let that happen. If I want to talk about this or write about it, I can. You know? Because you got to remember, that's what the whole point of this, you know, this kind of campaign that she went on, you know, towards me about when it came to, you know, whenever I made posts. It was like, you know, when she would harass me and she wouldn't go away, I would delete my original comment just to, you know, to get, you know, just to get it out, you know, and let it go away, because I didn't want to deal with it. And then I realized that that's what, you know, that was another thing. She wanted me to delete all those comments. Like I said, she wanted me to just not, you know, to just shut up and go on and not be seen or heard or whatever. And I ain't doing that anymore. So, like I said, I'm putting it out there for, you know, she's being exposed for what all she did to me. Yes, I did have to report to YouTube, but, you know, it didn't do any good. That is something that is a problem with YouTube, unfortunately, is that, I don't know, I guess there's a different way. Like, if you have a really serious problem with somebody, maybe there's a different way that you have to, you know, contact or whatever. I don't know. But, I have been told that, like I said, I have been told by others that she's done this to others. They have had to report her, you know. So just be aware of who you know, converse with when you're, you know, doing the, you know, when you're chatting online. Because like I said, I've heard she's done this online. It ain't just YouTube, it's social media, period. Anything that's got to do with NXS, basically, or Michael Hutchins. I've heard she caused problems on Facebook. See, I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know. But that's what I've heard, that she was causing problems on Facebook as well. But the thing is that, you know, this person, they always post in French. They have changed their name a lot, but they keep going by Lulu, you know, last time that I knew. They're always talking about being in this relationship with Michael Hutchins. And then one of the things that she likes to do, she likes to post these poems that she claims that Michael wrote for her, and that, you know, she channels them. And then she posts them, you know, for people to see, and she would post it in the comment sections. And, you know, what did I just tell you when I went to the reading? It ain't him. You see where I'm getting at? It's not him. You know, he does not know her. There is no connection. All this stuff about past lives is this bull. The thing that we don't know is, we don't know if she's been dabbling in stuff to where she's summoned up. See, some of that was explained to me. These people, there are people that like to try and summon up these dead spirits for fun, like the, you know, the deceased celebrities. And they give themselves away, because a lot of them will dabble in stuff that they don't know anything about. And what they don't understand is they can summon up a dark spirit that is basically lying to you and telling you anything you want to hear. And if you think that you're conversing, you know, with the person you were trying to summon, well, yeah, you think you're conversing with them, because they're going to tell you what you want to hear. And you see where I'm getting at? See, we don't know whether or not that's what's been going on this whole time, and that she actually, you know, has been doing something like that. And then here we go. She's under this delusion that's Michael Hutchins, or the spirit of him, and it's not. And you see where I'm getting at? So, you know, I don't know. I'm just putting that theory out there, but I know for a fact that there have been a few others online. When I was first starting to do my research about Michael, I come across some comments of people that were trying to claim that they were in contact with his spirit, and they were no such of a thing, because that was something else that was explained to me in that reading that I had. I mean, I'm not trying to say that Michael doesn't, like contact anybody or doesn't converse. What I was told is he is very selective. I'm sorry, but that's what I was told. He, if people from that life, his family and friends, if they actually went to a legit, psychic or medium and they had that experience, that's one thing. But when it comes to people, they're just talking about how they randomly, they think they have the ability to communicate, like a medium does, or they do this or they do that. Michael said that when it comes to the people, he's basically the best way, because it's kind of hard for me to explain, because I'm trying not to come off. I don't want to be, rude. But I was told that no, there is this thing that I noticed when I was going through. I think it's going to be something that I'll bring up in another video later on, but basically what I noticed is there are a good deal of fans that are trying to claim that they've had some kind of, spiritual experience, where you want to call it. And what was explained to me is that some people he has visited, and there's others, no, it wasn't. And the thing is, you don't know what these people were involved in. Again, like I said, were they trying to summon up his spirit or something, do some kind of crazy cockamamie bullshit like that? And you see where I'm getting at? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. He says that he is aware. He knows that there are others that are trying to claim that, that he came to them and he said no, he's very selective. Okay? And that's what I was told. I mean, I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade, but that's just the truth, though, because I was starting to get a little weirded out by that at first. I was like, what is that? What? And, like I said, when I went to that reading, he explained it to me that was something where, there are some people where they are speaking truth. And, then there's a lot of them that they're not speaking truth, and there you go. My stalker is basically just one of them at this point when it comes to the people that are not telling the truth. And again, this is like subject for another time. It's just, just be aware that, there are some. I mean, this is no different. This is going on with other deceased celebrities. It's not just Michael. There's others. I've noticed this. But it's just a simple fact that, this person likes to say all this stuff. She's in this relationship with Michael. He writes her all these poems and all this other crazy crap, and then there you go. And like I said, it's just some kind of deluded fantasy that this person is trying to push as real. And there ain't no telling whether or not she summoned up somebody else or what. There's no telling. But it's not him. And obviously, he doesn't like any of this happen. And I mean, it's just one of those things. What can he do? It's just the thing is that from what I was told, and again, I'm not going to really go into it, but because I really don't know enough. I can only go by my feelings and, of course, what I was told in that reading. But he says I was spiritually protected from any harm. And I kind of wonder what that was all about. And I don't like to dwell on it, but that's kind of how far-reaching this crap, how, I guess how far-reaching it got to. But yeah, like I said, I brought this up so that way, like I said, number one, when I start to post all of my older videos where I'm explaining, just what exactly I went through, on this journey, that led me to finding out about this connection with Michael and the others. Every now and then there's going to be a mention to this Lulu character. And you know, now you're going to know why. You know, there doesn't need to be an explanation. You're not going to be weirded out like, you know, who's she talking about right there? What's going on? You know, you know now. Because these videos were made in an earlier time, and if I mention her, that means she was starting some kind of crap. You know, at the time that video was made. Another awareness of it is about online bullying and stalking harassment. It's a big problem online now. Third thing is I'm bringing awareness to fans of Michael Hutchins. And it says that if you have seen this person posting, you know, and especially, you know, like if they're going on and on about this, that, and the other, just take it with a grain of salt and just move on. Because, you know, like I said, this person, they've got problems. Do not converse with them. You know, I mean, because like I said, this person, this is what I went through. You know? Yes, I did try to ignore it, obviously. And, you know, would she go away? Hell no. I mean, you know. So, but yeah, this video was very long. I did not expect it to get this long. But obviously all this needed to be explained and said. So yeah, this will be it for this video, and there will be more to come. So I will get back to y'all later. Bye for now.